The House Committee on Oversight will come to order. Clerk, would you take attendance?
Chair DeBoyer.
Here.
Meerman. Paquette. Cara. Bruck. Green. Regas. Shriver. Wolford. Miller. Pahutsky. Conlon. McDonald. Menser. Cerniglu. Wagella. Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Representative Bruck moves to approve the minutes of the June 24th meeting without objection, so ordered.
The Subcommittee on Michigan State Police Appropriations will be called to order. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Chair Mueller.
Here.
Representatives Maddock. Kelly. Snyder. Martis. Mr. Chair, you have 5 members present. A quorum is present.
Representative Maddock moves to the minutes from the March 4th meeting.
I would like to welcome Colonel James Grady from the Michigan State Police Department. Please feel free to come up and begin your testimony when you are ready. Colonel, thank you.
Make sure I turn on the mic. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. I appreciate your commitment to oversight. My goal is to provide the facts in the best interest of transparency, which is the cornerstone of this agency and essential to maintaining the public's trust. I was born and raised in the state of Michigan, growing up in the city of Inkster before continuing my education at Eastern Michigan University, graduating with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice criminology. I began my career with the Michigan State Police in 1998 as a recruit and a graduate of the 117th Trooper Recruit School. I then served at 2 post sites as a trooper before working as a detective trooper assigned to the MSP Violent Crime Section, working with the U.S. Marshals on a multi-jurisdictional fugitive task force. Upon completion of this assignment, I promoted to the rank of sergeant at the Detroit Post before ascending through every rank in the agency to the captain level because of my ability to and hard work ethic and ability to lead. It has been my honor to provide the great state of Michigan and its residents and visitors with 27 years of protection and service. As the 20th Colonel in the 108-year history of this agency's existence, I am continuing to build upon a strong foundation laid by those who came before me. I have committed to never resting on the traditions and progress of this agency, but to actively foster cultural change, embracing innovation, inclusivity, and continuous improvement so that we remain a forward-thinking and effective organization for generations to come. I want to reaffirm the core principles that guide the Michigan State Police, our values of integrity, respect, accountability, and service, our morals of justice and fairness, our vision of being a trusted law enforcement agency committed to protecting and serving all communities. Our mission is to uphold the law and ensure safety is rooted in the belief that every individual deserves dignity and the opportunity for redemption. Our just cause within the Michigan State Police is to build a Michigan where everyone feels safe and secure. We aim to be an agency where our service delivery exceeds expectations now and into the future. By capitalizing on strategic investments in our members, policing practices, and community relationships. As the agency's leader, I have committed to providing an inclusive work environment making myself accessible and approachable to every member of our team. I believe in being a transformative but servant leader, serving with humility and putting the needs of others first. I believe that a transformative but servant leader will provide the leadership that this agency needs. And by doing so, I am aiming to cultivate a culture of trust, respect, and shared responsibility that reflects our core values. During my tenure across the state, crime has been reduced. We have added over 200 troopers to the field, 12 motor carrier officers, and 5 state capitol security officers. We have become a CALEA Gold Standard accredited law enforcement agency, allowing an outside organization to assess multiple areas of our agency and our policies, our trainings, our protocols, and standards for improvement based on best practices for law enforcement agencies. We have been partners in the community with our troopers on tour initiatives, providing a family fun-oriented opportunity to play a little basketball and create opportunities to have genuine and authentic dialogue to build community trust. There have been multiple educational opportunities provided to the public as well. That includes the school safety leadership academies, our youth violence prevention summits, Stop a Plot to reduce violent attacks, and recruit school scenario actor opportunities offered to engage with Michigan residents. Law enforcement agencies across the nation have seen steady declines in morale and retention over the past few years for a variety of reasons, including both internal and external factors. Negative media coverage, poor perception of a community, or a lack of support for officers, increased or changing regulations, and lack of staffing can all affect officer enthusiasm and satisfaction. Over the last 10 years, the policing industry has experienced both extreme scrutiny and great transition as departments move toward modern policing. While acknowledging the challenges of these external pressures, my leadership team and I remain committed to supporting the members of the MSP by fostering a work environment and culture where our members are well, resilient, and fulfilled by the meaningful work that they do. Morale and responsibility are interconnected. A motivated, accountable force is essential to earning and maintaining the trust of the communities that we serve. All staff members, from leadership to frontline officers, share the responsibility of upholding the agency's values and ensure fair and equitable opportunities for advancement, training, and recognition. This fosters a culture of fairness, inclusivity, and respect, cornerstones of a modern, effective police organization. This is why, during the first 5 months of my appointment, I immediately began conducting worksite visits within each district of the state. This included post, crime labs in our headquarters location, which created an opportunity to dialogue with both enlisted and civilian professionals within the department. From April through June this year, my leadership team and I have repeated visits in 6 of the districts, visiting again multiple posts. My leadership team and I have also held multiple command meetings and hosted 2 leadership conferences, addressed members at the other MSP-led conferences, new employee orientations, and addressed recruit schools during recruit school and enlisted staff at in-service training during my tenure. My team and I will continue our focus on members' career development. With the establishment of department's tuition reimbursement, discounted tuition programs, and a $2,000 annual training fund, creation of the Wellness and Resiliency section with new course offerings focused on physical fitness, financial fitness, nutrition, sleep education, resilience training, mindfulness, stress management, and trauma-informed leadership are essential to the agency's future success. The establishment of employee resource groups, which today totals 9 groups, where department members with common interests or backgrounds bring their collective voices together to drive change. create new opportunities, and help inspire and support each other. There, I have advocated for pay raises for MSP members and lieutenants. There's also been the creation of the Blue Diamond Award to honor members who are seriously injured in the line of duty that have committed the ultimate sacrifice when serving and protecting. And there have been key investments in equipment and technology, including facility improvements to the training academy and data infrastructure within the agency where needed. When it comes to recruiting, we want to attract the highest caliber talent to join our inclusive team, where we challenge the status quo and each other in pursuit of the public safety. Compared to many state police agencies across the country, we are setting the standard in recruiting efforts. We are committed to recruiting and implementing an aggressive recruiting plan. This has included billboard advertising, recruiting VDOs, recruiting at colleges and universities within and outside of the state, military bases, and adding more cadet opportunities within our recruiting strategy. The Michigan State Police seeks to pursue new opportunities to provide the highest quality policing and public safety services, improve traffic safety, and prevent crime. We work with our federal and local law enforcement partners daily to meet this mission. This agency is critical to the state of Michigan, again providing excellent public safety services. We enforce the laws of this great state while actively engaging with the public to create and maintain partnerships with the people that we serve. Building trust and collaboration with our communities is essential to fulfilling our missions effectively and ethically. Effective communication within the Michigan State Police is also crucial. Clear, transparent, and consistent communication fosters trust, supports teamwork, and ensures policies and expectations are understood and upheld at every level. When communication is prioritized, it strengthens relationships, both within the agency and with the communities that we serve. Public service is more than a process. It's about the people. It's about earning trust, protecting dignity, and ensuring that every person, regardless of their background, feels seen, heard, and safe. This department does not belong to any one leader. It belongs to the people. It must be transparent, trustworthy, and transformational. I believe in dialogue. I believe when leaders act with integrity and openness, institutions grow stronger. That is the spirit in which I serve and the spirit in which I appear before you today. I'm here to answer your questions, provide factual context, and continue building a department worthy of public trust. Thank you for listening and your commitment to this vital work.
Thank you for that, Colonel Grady. I appreciate it. There are some questions that the members do have. First, I'm going to turn it over to Chair Mueller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Colonel Grady, for your service to law enforcement. Just a couple of questions about some of the statements that you had mentioned. Regarding the pay raises, the command officers and the unions, don't they negotiate the pay raises, and what influence did you have in with that? And then next, the dialogue. You know, you talk about the dialogue, but when we read the surveys, the dialogue, one of the main criticisms are the troops and the people working below you feel that there's a lack of communication. That's plain in the surveys, that's in the public. And then your strategic plan, was that a strategic plan that you yourself devised with your leadership team, or was that the strategic plan that was in place underneath former Gasper's leadership team that you moved forward? But who actually wrote that strategic plan? And lastly, regarding the tuition reimbursement, I believe the tuition reimbursement is something that the legislature passed to help, continuing education. So those are just some follow-up questions on some of your statements there. And again, I appreciate you coming in, sir.
Thank you for those questions. I put together a committee from my staff to also talk about pay raises and the contract that currently existed. I also advocated for pay raises. As a matter of fact, when I started my initial worksite visits, shortly after I began my seat in this position, I told the troopers then that they deserved a pay raise. So I've been an advocate and supporter of pay raises for our sergeants and troopers and our lieutenants in this agency since I began in this position. Dialogue, that's why I wanted to do what I did by stepping out in the early stages of me sitting in this seat as the director of the Michigan State Police. I wanted to hear from the people doing the work every day. So I set that up across the state. I hit every district, multiple work sites for months, so that they could provide some dialogue and some information on their concerns and questions that they had. This is when I first started, and I've continued to do that, previously doing that in the last several weeks. I've got one district left, and that's the 8th district, and I'm planning and scheduled to go to the 8th district within the next week after the holidays. This is something that I want from every member of the agency. Like I said in my remarks, I keep myself accessible. I don't care if you push the broom in headquarters, if you're out working in a patrol car, if you are doing the administrative work behind the scenes. I look at every member of the Michigan State Police as a valuable employee, and I respect all of them, regardless of whatever their roles and responsibilities are. I am glad that they are part of the MSP and happy to work with them every day to provide the excellent public safety services that the people in Michigan deserve and expect. The strategic plan, that was something that was developed by me and my executive leadership team that is in place right now. So we sat down after looking at the surveys, after listening to the staff that work in this agency, and we developed a plan. If you've had the opportunity to read it, it actually does touch on morale. We put together plans and strategically to try to address morale in the agency. But with that, we wanted input. I just had a meeting last week with command staff to touch on the surveys and the results of it. And they are going to shoulder some of that responsibility by developing plans themselves so that we can address morale in this agency to the best of our ability. Tuition reimbursement. Yes, that was started prior to me sitting in this seat, but it's something that I advocate and support. This is the best way so that we can continue to develop the membership here in the MSP. Shortly after I started in my first leadership conference, these are people that are 14 classification levels and above, or lieutenants on the enlisted side in our agency. That leadership conference, attendance is almost 400 people. One of the questions that I asked in that room that day was, how many of you in here have 20 years or more in the agency? Well over 60% of that room raised their hand. We have to continue to invest in our staff for the future of this agency. So I advocate for opportunities for my staff like that every day. Thank you for the question.
Really quick, one follow-up. Regarding the surveys, why is it just now that we're taking action on these surveys when this was brought to light many months ago about the morale? Why now all of a sudden, after oversight hearings and now this hearing, that we are taking action on the surveys, the ICE survey and the employee engagement survey?
Again, to improve employee engagement and satisfaction, we have created a department-wide survey action plan. This is what I just touched on a moment ago. This is an opportunity for us to institute a requirement from each of the bureaus, the divisions, and the district commanders to create action plans to positively impact employee engagement for their respective work sites. Our department-wide plan includes initiatives to better solicit employee feedback, improve teamwork, and enhance communications. This initiative also includes annual worksite visits, which again, I've already started. I'm down to the last district. I'm doing the work, Representative Mueller. I'm doing everything that I can to ensure that the morale increases, because I, again, respect all of the members of our agency, and I want them to be well. I want them to be in a good place. I want them to want to come to work, because when they're in a good place, they can come and do the work effectively and efficiently every day. And that's something that I support as the leader of this department.
Thank you, Colonel.
Colonel, I think it's important to get a little bit of a perspective on, you know, what occurred to the degree that kind of the Oversight Committee at least had some interest in speaking with you. So it's our understanding that the Michigan Troopers Association, the Michigan State Police Command Officers recently took a vote of their members. And the question that was asked was, do you have confidence in leadership Colonel James Grady and Lieutenant Colonel Amy Brimacombe? The results of that question first had 75% of the membership participate in the vote. 90% of the command officers and 98% of the troopers voted no confidence in your leadership and Lieutenant Colonel Brimacombe's leadership. Your presentation, as I followed and paid attention, you said things like accountability, fairness, and results. First, I'd like to hear your thoughts on why is it at a 98% no confidence? And then maybe talk to me about how do you measure yourself when it comes to accountability and results? Because results at the end of the day is what actually matters. We can debate back and forth about what we believe to be good policy, not good policy, but at the end of the day, results is what matters. So I guess I would like to hear your thoughts on that no confidence vote and how you feel about that and how you intend to address that.
I am proud to serve, and I am an experienced veteran here in the MSP. I'm also doing my part again to increase morale within the agency and the profession of law enforcement. And again, I am committed to reducing crime and ensuring safety across the state of Michigan. Members of the MSP are coming into work and doing the work every day. And I respect that. I support that. And I'll continue to support our membership. I can't sit and provide you with information for something that I had nothing to do with regarding what the MSPTA and the Command Officers Association does. That is not on behalf of the MSP. That's something that they decided to do. So again, my response is exactly that. I am committed, I am supportive to all our membership so that they can do their job, and I am providing not only the development, but also the support in many different ways, in various ways, to each member of the agency so that they can be effective and efficient and provide and assist in the agency by providing excellent public safety services across this state.
Has there ever been a vote of no confidence to this degree that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of.
Would you agree that if your rank and file members, especially in an organization that it is a command structure and it is a hierarchy of who's in charge and following orders, would you agree that if the rank and file members of the Michigan State Police do not have confidence in your leadership, that risks the ability for them to effectively do their job?
As I indicated a moment ago, they are doing the work day in and day out. No different than what I did for the first 15 years of my career out in the field. You go out and work, regardless of the changes above you. And the members of MSP, the troopers, the motor carrier officers, and everybody else in this agency is doing the work every day.
But will you take the time to measure the results of your actions? Because that is accountability, fairness, and results. Those are your words. How do you hold yourself accountable for that level of lack of confidence?
I hold myself accountable by coming in and setting the example every day by doing the work that I'm supposed to do and keeping the state of Michigan safe. You know, in the last couple of weeks, there are multiple examples of that. The incident in Minnesota when I had to call representatives on the phone on the Sunday and let them know what was going on, and then to work with locals to ensure that they had protection and safety. Here with the Iran missile strike, providing information to our lawmakers across this state in the briefings that I've conducted on the weekends to, again, make sure that the state of Michigan is safe and secure. That's my job. And I've been supportive of all of the members of our agency in ways that I've already explained. So I will continue that every day. I will do my best every day to make sure that the members of our agency have what they need so that they can perform effectively and, again, provide excellent safety services to the state of Michigan.
Who ultimately makes that determination if you're actually successful at what it is that you're attempting to accomplish?
Well, like you said, success can come in many ways.
Sure.
But I'm often told by members, because I make myself accessible, they tell me how happy they are with the work that they're doing, that they're satisfied with the work that they're doing, that they're satisfied with the support that they have in our agency. So I get it face to face because I am that type of person that will strike up a conversation with anyone, because they know that I am respectful for what they do, and they know that I also value what they do every day. So that's my response to that.
And I appreciate that, and I don't have any reason to believe that that is not who you are. But the results of the survey, unfortunately, and with all due respect, says otherwise. And that's why I think you can imagine that from an Oversight Committee's perspective, when you see something like that, it has to be looked at. Because you are correct. You made the statement that the Michigan State Police is one of the most respected agencies in the entire country, frankly. And it has been for decades. And so when you see that level of lack of confidence, that's very concerning to us as legislators, that would be the case. So I do appreciate you taking the time to come here and answer these questions. And we're going to move to a couple additional questions. I am going to go to Minority Vice Chair Miller.
Thank you, Colonel, for being here today. First off, I want to congratulate you on the police accreditation. That's incredible.
Thank you.
And you're here to provide testimony. We understand that. But and I want everyone to know, as Minority Vice Chair of Oversight, my goal here is to ensure a balance, and that being thorough and a good understanding of this situation. Look, I've attended the depositions in this matter, and while I cannot comment on specifics due to the ongoing deposition that's coming forward, I am fully committed to ensuring that all voices are heard in this matter, and I will be fair and transparent. Regarding some of these concerns that have come forward on low morale and retention within the department, I wanted to get into specifics here. Can you give a little bit more detail on how this survey came about and who are the respondents? And because there's such a expressed lack of confidence here, have you engaged yourself after this survey came out? Have you engaged with direct dialogue with those under your command about the dissatisfaction? And what feedback have you gotten?
So since this vote went out, I've had some conversation with my leadership team and actually with command staff here last week. But it was more dealing with our plan and with the survey and what the next action steps would be and how we would address that here in the near future. The vote itself, again, is not coming from the Michigan State Police. And what I will tell you is this. Crime is down in the state of Michigan across the state. Troopers and our enlisted staff, our civilian professionals are doing the work every day. So I have a difference in opinion. I feel like our departmental members are going and doing the work every day. If it was that bad, wouldn't we see some change in that? And I have never been in this agency, well, I've never seen in this agency members respond in a survey with those high numbers ever in this department. So at the end of the day, again, I am committed to providing the support and advocating for our members every day so that they can do their work. My job is to ensure that they receive the training, that they receive the tools and resources so that they can be effective and efficient.
So you
Providing
believe that
services.
your relationship has fostered a environment of trust
I do.
and accountability?
I do.
All right.
They're doing the work every day. The numbers show it.
Then why not such a huge number with dissatisfaction? But I will say this, it's great that they're still doing the work in light of the fact that we have this type of percentage here. Thank you.
Chair Mueller.
Thank you. Regarding the survey again, it wasn't done by the state police, but there were 2 surveys that were done by the state police or the state of Michigan, the employee engagement survey and the ICE survey, which measure different metrics in establishing morale and which ways we can move the department forward. And I don't have it right in front of me, but if I remember correctly, the ICE survey, when it talks about upper leadership, specifically yourself and Lieutenant Colonel Brimacombe, it was at like a 1.97 out of 4. So, and then the results of the employee engagement survey with some of the comments are similar to, and they codify the vote of no confidence by the troopers. And again, you can say crime stats are down, but that's a collective effort of all agencies and a working relationship between the state police, the sheriffs, the police office, like locals, and the prosecutor's office. The troopers are going to be troopers. I worked side by side with troopers for 19 years. Police officers inherently are going to have their problems. They're going to complain. We always do. But they always do their job regardless of what's going on in upper command. I did that in sheriff's departments where I worked at. Regardless of, you may not like your leader, but you're still going to do the job because you took an oath to do that job as a police officer, regardless of the leadership. And so, we really want to just get to the bottom of it, and it's not that, the troopers aren't going to just go on strike. They're going to continue to do their jobs because, like I said, they took an oath. So it's just kind of alarming when you see the results of the trooper survey that actually codify with the results of the survey done by the state. And why should the state of Michigan taxpayers pay for these surveys if we don't use the data from these surveys to help improve the departments that they are surveying? I guess that's the question. Why should the taxpayers be on the dime for these surveys, which I don't know the cost offhand, but we're going to try to figure that out. If we don't take the information from these surveys, this isn't the legislature writing the surveys. This isn't the legislature, answering the surveys. These are the men and women that work for you that are answering these questions in the surveys. Not us, them. And a lot of people don't even know these surveys exist. A lot of, the other committee I'm on, the DNR, they didn't know that, the chair there didn't know these surveys exist. And then when we get these surveys and we read through these hundreds of pages of issues that come down from communication, fear and retaliation, you do the post visits, if anyone speaks up against you, people get transferred. These are all the things that we hear from the field. This isn't just Mike Mueller making this up. And that's why we've done a careful, this has been going on for over a year and trying to get to the bottom of it. And like I said before, Colonel Grady, it's not that you're a bad person at all. And the thing is leadership is being a leader. And sometimes people are good leaders and sometimes they're not. And it's not anything about your character at all. It's about the men and women, 98% of the men and women that drive around those police cars fear retaliation. They fear speaking up to try to make it better, because if they speak up to try to make things better, they are in fear of not being promoted, losing a work assignment, and that is the reality of the surveys. So for Chair DeBoer, I kind of basically answered that. That is the result of what's been going on. And we need to fix it, and that's why we're here.
Is that your question for
My question is why do you think the taxpayers of Michigan should be paying for employee engagement surveys and ICE surveys if the leadership of these departments are not going to take that information to heart and utilize that to better their department and keep it moving forward? Because again, in the police world, Cops are going to do their jobs because they took an oath. So we need to make sure that their upper leadership is intact and is held accountable to make sure that the men and women can do their jobs without fearing retaliation.
Again, I am a veteran of this department, been here for 27 years. These surveys have been going on since I've been in the agency. And in 2024, we saw slight improvements in all 5 categories of the ICE survey, which include agency culture, goals and obstacles, police policies and procedures, information and communication, and the evaluation of feedback. And reviewing the 3 most recent surveys, covering the tenure of 3 colonels, the common themes in the survey are fairly consistent, with employees citing concerns over staffing, discipline, promotions, and the treatment of command staff versus frontline members. Notably, their concerns around technology, training, and outdated policies have largely been resolved and were not common themes in the 2024 survey. We take the survey seriously. That's why we put a plan together, as I've already indicated multiple times here, and we're moving forward as an agency to improve.
Thank you, Colonel.
Representative Bierlein.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Colonel, for being here today, and thank you for your service. You mentioned in your presentation, as well as the governor's offices has credited you for a significant reduction in violent crime throughout Michigan. Can you touch on what actions and initiatives that you have instituted that have contributed to those reductions? And also nationally, is Michigan an outlier here, or is this trend just a national happening?
Let me begin by making everyone aware that we participate in multi-jurisdictional operations across this state to keep the state safe. Whether it's dealing with gun violence, narcotics, whatever the criminal activity consists of, we are working collaboratively with our prosecutors, with our federal partners, with our local partners, and even bordering states daily. As it pertains to crimes, both violent and property crimes are down. And we are doing better than a lot of states across this country.
What specific actions has MSP instituted that have led to that? I mean, I want to make sure credit's given where it's due. The governor said that you did this. I want to know how, if you please.
Our command staff, that are assigned to tackle or deal with a specific criminal activity in this state, they develop the operations and run the day-to-day operations across this state, working collaboratively with our local and federal law enforcement partners, along with our state prosecutors and local prosecutors. My job is to support them, make sure that they have the equipment that they need, to make sure that they have the training that they need to remain effective, efficient, and safe while they're doing their job.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Snyder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Colonel, for being here in front of the committee this morning. Appreciate the opportunity to finally be able to ask some questions publicly and to actually have this committee meet. It's exciting to me, as we've not done that. But you've talked several times in your responses and in your testimony about your leadership team this morning. What level of discretion do you, as the colonel, have in choosing your leadership team at the department? And how is that different than past colonels in your position?
As the director of the Michigan State Police, my job is to assemble an executive leadership team with varied experiences, different strengths that can assist me with running the agency effectively and efficiently, ensuring that we meet the mission of providing excellent public safety services across this state.
Is it common practice for colonels to retain individuals who might have served in the administration of a previous colonel?
That is at the current colonel's discretion.
Discretion.
But again, my job is to put together an effective and efficient team that brings different strengths and varied experiences to help me run the agency.
And can you discuss and explain how, I understand there's a 2-year contract system for leadership teams. And can you discuss how those, explain to us how those work?
So each of our members sign a 2-year contract at certain ranks and levels within our agency. It's not just enlisted, it's for civilian professionals as well. My predecessor did the exact same thing. When they receive the opportunity to promote in those positions, they sign a contract. When the 2 years has expired, then we review the contract and make a decision on whether that will continue.
So there's no obligation to retain that individual?
There's no obligation.
And are there members of your leadership team still considered classified positions under civil service rules?
There are some, yes. Yes.
And then lastly, currently, how many vacant FTEs are there in the department?
I don't have those numbers, but I could supply them for you on another day.
So it's my understanding there's nearly 700 vacancies in the department right now, and 500 of those are at the trooper level. So as we talk about the surveys that continue to talk about staffing and the internal surveys, I think that we might have some of the answers right in front of us as we face nearly a 20% vacancy rate within the department. And I don't believe that we have any other department, to my knowledge, that has vacancy rates that are that high.
Again, I don't have those numbers in front of me, but what I can tell you is for the last 10 years, we have almost hired 1,000 troopers. Again, leading the way and leading the nation in hiring, especially for state police organizations in this country. So we are setting the standard. We have an aggressive recruiting plan. We're recruiting every day across this state, across this nation. We do have attrition that is set in place because people are retiring. They're hitting their retirement date and their drop time is just about completed. So we will continue to, move forward and hire people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Colonel Grady. And I understand that you are doing the work, and I appreciate that. And I thank you for coming today. And please know that this is not a character misjudgment. This is an operation. So every member of this committee has been provided a copy of that 2024 State Police Employee Engagement Survey. And I'm going to read some of the comments that the Michigan State Police officers made in that survey, and then I'm going to ask you to respond to some of them. So, quote, leadership and IA can stop all the retaliation that we are promised to be protected from, quote. Quote, I work for MSP. With the current regime, I will never feel safe, comfortable expressing my thoughts. It's well known. The top will make your life difficult if you speak out, quote. Quote, get rid of the current leadership that does not want anyone expressing their opinions. It's well known that Colonel Grady and Lieutenant Brimacombe do not want anyone asking questions about their decisions, and if they do, they will pay the price, end quote. Quote, retaliation is huge in this department. We are not allowed to speak our minds as we will be punished if we spoke. The trust about the way this used to be great department has been destroyed by this current administration, end quote. I'm going to skip a couple because there's a lot. Quote, leadership does not always want to hear what you have to say. If it is not positive or aligned with their ideology, they are not interested. They immediately get defensive, make excuses, and become angry or are moving on from the topic. End quote. Well, I'm going to do this one more. I am definitely not comfortable sharing my thoughts at this department. Based on retaliation efforts I have seen transpired with others, I would not feel safe sharing an opinion. I also have observed department members becoming reluctant to share with others. This is incredibly disturbing. This department seems to be fostering a culture of fear and isolation, which is extremely harmful in such a high-stress career. So those are just some of the statements that are in that survey. And I guess I look at it as, I don't see we have a tier system in Michigan, but I do see that the MSP is the elite policing force. You guys go through the most elite training, and you set the example for other departments. And so what we do see, in my personal opinion, because I've had other officers from other departments come to me about similar issues that's going on in their own departments. And so you see the MSP behaving this way and this trickle-down effect that is bleeding on to other departments. So in light of these comments by your employees, my question is then for you. Why is there a common theme about talking about retaliation from yourself and from Brickcomb against the officers within your own department, and then how do you plan to address it?
Again, I am a proud veteran and servant here at the Michigan State Police. I've been here for a long time. I will continue to do my best in increasing morale within the agency and within the profession. I cannot control what other agencies do. I can only do my best here with the MSP by setting the bar and setting the example as a leader here. I am doing that because I am committed to the members of this agency and to the great state of Michigan.
So do you know why, though, okay, so setting aside my other comments, but these are from your own officers, that they feel as if they're being retaliated against. How have they come to that conclusion?
As I indicated earlier, I'm making myself accessible. I've made myself accessible. And I have done worksite visits, touching as many members of this agency as possible. Those are not the type of comments that I get. I believe wholeheartedly that the majority of this agency does not feel that way. They are doing the work every day. A lot of them are satisfied with their work environment, with the work that they do, and providing excellent public safety services to the members and the residents in this state.
Do you think that you have made comments potentially that would have caused them to feel fearful if they talk to you? Could you recall anything that there would be a reason that multiple officers are in fear of retaliation?
I don't believe that multiple officers feel retaliation.
So, but we have.
And no, the answer is no. No, I don't say things
So do you think
that would
the
be
survey
troubling
was
to the membership
fabricated?
here in this department.
Do you think the survey was fabricated?
When you look at the survey, there are almost copycat responses in those surveys.
Well, do you think, because clearly there's a theme, so they might have the same things and the same thoughts to say.
Well, it's an anonymous survey too. That's understand that. And so I have offered the opportunity for anyone that has a question or concern as this agency's leader to feel free of contacting me. And I have no problem with sitting down with them and hearing them out.
But again, they still believe they're being retaliated against so much that they're coming to us. And it's not just 1, 2, 3, there's multiple people, and I wasn't privy to the whatever you call it. Desperate, don't change my words, so it's a real thing that's happening here. And I guess I hope, I have just one final question, a little bit, because I know DeBoyer is going to follow up. Can you tell me just a little bit your relationships with the MCOLS process and how MCOLS files are stored within police officers across the state? I know that you're not in charge of it, but can you explain that at all?
Excuse me. MCOLS is connected with the state police, but it's a separate entity. I don't control what MCO does. They have their own director there. We are on the board, like many other agency leaders, to have those discussions about training for law enforcement across this state. But that's a question that would be for the MCO's director.
Thank you.
Colonel, are you aware that we have deposed some members of the Michigan State Police?
I have been made aware, and you know that I have challenged that.
Sure.
Because I wasn't a part of that, haven't received the transcripts, and I feel that it puts me in an unfair position.
Okay. Are you aware, well, first I would like to ask you, as the colonel and as the safekeeper for your troopers and your employees, would you say it's a reasonable expectation of you as the leader to protect your officers, protect your troopers and your command officers to the best of your ability, obviously within the law? But would that be a position that you would say is a reasonable expectation of yourself as the colonel of the Michigan State Police?
I support our enlisted staff, but I also believe in accountability.
Okay. Are you aware that we have sent notifications to 3 additional individuals that work for the Michigan State Police to be deposed?
I've been informed that some individuals that are currently working here have received notifications to be deposed, but I don't know exactly who hasn't returned a response to you.
Are you aware that the Michigan State Police at some level, either yourself, someone above you perhaps, or someone in your command below you has doxed your troopers and put their names, their locations of depositions, their titles and their ranks out to the media? Are you aware of that?
I'm not aware of that.
Someone in the Michigan State Police has done that to their fellow troopers and their fellow officers.
Well, I'll have to follow up on that. We can investigate it like we do anything that would that could harm one of our members.
You're not aware of that being shared with the media?
We will investigate it.
So the answer is you are not aware of that being shared with the media?
I have not been informed. I will investigate it. This is the first I've heard of it.
Did you read it in the media, these
I did not
individuals?
read it in
You have
the
not
media.
read it in the media?
No.
Okay. Because I got to tell you that the fact that the only individuals that had that information shared it with the media is appalling. That is doxing people within your organization. People who we have asked to communicate with us in private. We've asked them to communicate with us in fairness and open and transparency with other members of our committee. And this morning in the media, we read 3 names that only your agency had. That's inexcusable. The fact that your own agency would dox their own members. Colonel, this is a clear demonstration of why there's a lack of confidence in the leadership at the Michigan State Police. Because at all costs, they will protect themselves and they will sacrifice their members. I would appreciate an investigation from you into this, and I would appreciate a result on who it was, who authorized it, and who sent it to the media. Very disappointing. Representative Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, Colonel Grady. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
I appreciate it very much. And as a Kent County representative and resident, I have to ask this question to you. So you issued regarding Sergeant Keeley. You issued a prompt statement regarding the charges against Sergeant Keeley when they were first announced. However, following the federal court's dismissal of those charges, there were no corresponding statements acknowledging the outcome or expressing support for your member. Why were there no public comment recognizing the justice system's decisions to not prosecute or affirming your respect for that outcome?
As the leader of the Michigan State Police, my job was to ensure that a thorough, fair, impartial, and expeditious investigation was done. That was completed by members or investigators from the Michigan State Police and submitted to the Attorney General's office for review. From that point, moving forward, it is the Attorney General's job to review and decide charging decisions and how to carry the case through the court of law. Everything that happens after that is out of my hands. My roles and responsibilities were met as the leader of this agency.
Okay. But there were no comments regarding the officer and the charges. So the courts dismissed the charges. Shouldn't it have been your duty to make a comment and in support of your officer?
My roles and responsibilities were met when I turned that investigation over to the Attorney General's office.
So you don't feel the need to defend one of your officers in the public eye?
Well, last I checked, this is being appealed. So this possibly isn't over yet. But what I will tell you is, in this situation, I made sure that I met the roles and responsibility of my position, and that was to ensure that a thorough and partial and fair investigation was completed.
And so do you appreciate the impact that your actions had on the morale with your rank and file officers when you so quickly came out in the media condemning one of your own officers before an investigation was even completed?
I didn't condemn anyone.
So you didn't make a comment before on that issue?
I didn't condemn anyone. I indicated the same thing that I just said a moment ago.
So you don't feel the need to defend your officers?
I just told you.
Do you think that has something to do with the low morale in your department?
As I just indicated, my job was to ensure a fair and partial and thorough investigation and make sure that it was submitted in a timely manner to the Attorney General's office for review. I did my job.
You immediately suspended the officer without pay before any investigation was done.
That's my discretion as the director of the state
Was that
police.
complaint according to policy and procedure?
Rodriguez, can I finish responding before you continue to talk?
If you would like to answer the question, that would be
I am
appreciated.
answering the question, ma'am, but I would like to be provided an opportunity
Please do.
respectively to finish my response. As the director of the state police, it is not uncommon for me to review the body cam video, the video footage, and receive a briefing from my staff so that I can make those decisions. That decision was mine to make based on the evidence and information that I've been provided with. I make sound and reasonable decisions. That was the decision that I stand behind 100% because I have way more information than what everybody else does when these incidents like that occur. So as the director, it is my job to make those decisions. So I stand behind the decision that I made on that day as announced.
Was your decision according with policy and procedure?
It's within policy and procedure. It was a fair and partial and thorough investigation. That is my job as the director to make sure that that happens and that information, along with all of the evidence, is provided for the Attorney General's office for review.
Okay. Is it true that you were also involved in an officer-involved shooting in the early 2000s?
Many years ago, I was involved in the shooting.
Was the same policy and procedure followed as a result of the shooting that you were involved
I was
in?
not the director of the state police at that time. I was a trooper.
Okay, let me rephrase my question. In the early 2000s, when you were a trooper and you were involved in an officer-involved shooting, was the same policy and procedure followed at that time? Were you also immediately suspended without pay?
I was not suspended.
Do you know why?
I do not know why. That would be a question for the director at that time to answer.
Did your command support you? Did your commander support you?
You talking about at the post level? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I've received support. That support included receiving an opportunity to speak to the Office of Behavioral Science. That support I do the same thing as the director of the state police right now.
And how was your morale during that period, knowing that your commander supported you?
I didn't do anything wrong, so I felt 100% confident about my actions as a trooper on the use of force that I had to take on that day. It was life or death situation.
With all due respect, Representative, we're going to move. Representative Mueller.
Thank you. Just to follow up, goes back a little bit. You're talking about your relationship with other law enforcement agencies and crime. Hasn't it been recently the Prosecutor's Office Association has criticized your policy on turning critical incidences over to the Attorney General? And there's a lot more to than just critical incidences, because prosecutors have to review things in the middle of the night. They have to do search warrants. There's been numerous prosecutors, even the Wayne County prosecutor, the Genesee County prosecutor, all coming out saying that it's a slap in the face that the local prosecutors who are elected by the local officials are being overridden by the colonel of the state police's directive that all critical instances will go to the Attorney General, a statewide elected official, versus a county prosecutor elected by the people within their county, that they have a job to do. They are prosecutors, and they feel that they should be able to handle the critical incidences that occur within their boundaries with the people that elect them, without having a statewide official have to make that decision.
Our written directive regarding criminal investigations involving state agencies or employees provide direction to our members on the submission of complaints and investigations involving department members and non-member state employees. This directive has been in place for at least 20 years and was updated in the fall of 2024. The purpose of the directive is to ensure statewide consistency with our investigation and submission of complaint for prosecutors' review in any prosecution. The department leadership, which is me and my leadership team, we met with the Prosecuting Attorneys Association here in Michigan in 2024 to share the written directive and explain the reasoning for it. It is my role and responsibility to ensure that we have policies that provide consistency in this agency.
Okay, it looks like you read that from, that's prepared script. I'm off the cuff here. So you don't think that the low morale, there's not anything that you did with that policy that you would see have any effect on the morale of the troopers who, let's say, work up in the UP, the troopers that work somewhere else where they get into an incident and now their critical incident is being reviewed by a statewide official versus a prosecutor, and that you don't think that contributes at all to the low morale? It's kind of a yes or no question.
No.
So your statement is the troopers that are working the road currently today do not fear retaliation from state government by the elected Attorney General when they get involved in a critical incident. That does not affect the morale of the police officers working below you.
I make decisions that are reasonable.
It was a yes or no.
I make decisions that are reasonable, that will have a positive effect
Again,
on the
agency. That was a yes or no.
On the agency, and so the answer to that question is no.
Okay, thank you, Colonel.
Go out and do their jobs like they do every day.
Representative Bruck.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Colonel Grady, for being here today. I know none of us would argue the fact that you sit in a very difficult position and run you do a difficult job, and I would not want to be in your seat right now, so I appreciate you being here. Obviously, my background, military, understanding rank structure and things of that nature. When you came in, you had to make different decisions, and so some particulars that I wanted to ask was, in that, it appears that you demoted a number of people, and I had a question. Have you ever demoted a lieutenant colonel down to the rank of lieutenant?
So, to answer your question, I didn't demote anyone. For those that had expiring contracts that I didn't renew, they had fallback rights according to civil service. They had two options that I offered them at that time. One, you could revert to your fallback rights at a certain rank and level within the agency. And number two, because I made some changes in our organization. So a reorg took place, minor, but one took place. They could apply for the position vacancies that would become open.
So with the position of the Field Operations Bureau, that was just not a renewed contract, essentially?
So that person's, at the time, that lieutenant colonel's contract expired.
Okay, so it wasn't because of ill will or any other bad reports or bad disciplinary actions or anything of that nature then?
The contract expired, and based on civil service rules, I am not obligated to renew that contract.
Okay. Do you think that this could be part of, I mean, obviously if you're a Joe Snuffy, the lower end soldier or MSP, just the patrol guy or gal, and they see this happen, could that affect the morale or possibly part of the reason why a survey would come back so negative as far as the lack of trust when they see someone that, that's ranked to lieutenant colonel and then being, I would say, demoted, but not renewed and put back at a lieutenant rank?
What I will share with you is I'm not the colonel to do that. I'm following his past practice for what occurred before me.
Okay, roger that. I appreciate that. And I have one final question, Chair. In Monroe, who is the post commander in the Monroe MSP post?
Newer post commander, I can't recall his name right now.
Okay, all right, thank you. It is Lieutenant Bowe.
Thank you.
December 8th.
It'd be
of last year.
first lieutenant.
Yes.
Colonel, regarding the contracts, previous colonels, so when Colonel Gasper Colonel Gasper was your predecessor, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so when you took over for Colonel Gasper, how many members of that leadership team did not get their contracts renewed? Talking major and above.
Five.
So there was five, and with those five, how many years of experience of leadership level did you lose when those majors and lieutenant colonels didn't get their contracts renewed and they were replaced with the people that you picked? How many years of leadership experience at that level, major or above, did you lose?
Each one of them had a considerable amount of experience, but the people that I chose have a considerable amount of experience as well.
That leads me to my next real quick follow-up question, years of experience. So who is your current lieutenant colonel?
It's Chief Deputy Amy Brimacombe.
Correct. How many years did she spend on the road as a trooper?
At least 10.
So at least 10. How many people did she supervise after getting her law degree in the risk management section? How many troopers did she supervise?
There were no troopers in her.
So how many civilian employees did she supervise?
At least one or two.
At least one or two. So after you get rid of the five majors or lieutenant colonels with probably over 100 years of experience, you promote First Lieutenant Brimacombe, who supervised 0 troopers and was a trooper, so then you promoted her to the number 2 spot within the Michigan State Police. Prior to her being promoted, she had 3 sustained IA investigations against her. One for the misuse of a state vehicle, one for failing to maintain training records, and one for filing a false and disparaging report against a senior officer. At the time, it was her officer that she reported, the captain that she reported to. So by getting rid of over 100 years of experience of leadership level people, you choose a lieutenant colonel who had 3 sustained IAs, had to wait 4 days after she was eligible to promote. And by the way, this is another question you might want to write down or answer, is where was she from the time she went from risk management till the time she became the lieutenant colonel, in that time where she had to be off probation for 2 years? So then she's off probation for 4 days. She gets promoted to the number 2 spot in the state police, supervising probably, 3,000 people between enlisted and civilian employees. 4 months later, you give her a performance bonus. which has never been done before with somebody who has less than a year. Then you went out and rewrote the policy after you did that. So you have somebody in Lieutenant Colonel Brimacombe who had these sustained IAs against her. It was recommended that she be demoted from lieutenant to sergeant. However, your predecessor, not you, and whatever internal beings had, she didn't receive any demotion. She received a 5-day suspension that was taken out of her vacation bank. She was elevated to the number 2 spot, chief deputy director. 4 months later, she was awarded a performance bonus. And as a taxpayer, I would like to know the difference in her rate if her discipline, if we have accountability and transparency within the Michigan State Police higher ranks, what is the cost to the taxpayers when you have someone that was supposed to be a sergeant, elevated to lieutenant colonel, given an almost $10,000 performance bonus, and at the end of her career, that equates to about, even the $10,000 bonus at her current pay rate is about $2,700 a year for the rest of her life and her surviving spouse. What would that have been if she would have remained at the sergeant level? So I know this was multiple questions, but do you think that that contributes to the lack of morale when they have people, when you have troopers being rode up on the side of the road for not wearing their hat, stopping wrong-way drivers and getting into trouble for stopping wrong-way drivers that are intoxicated, getting rode up for not wearing a mask during a shooting, but you promote someone that did not supervise any troopers prior to becoming the number 2 in charge? Do you think that contributes to the why 98% of the men and women in the state police have no confidence in Lieutenant Colonel Brimacombe and yourself?
You've asked quite a bit out of that question.
And I didn't have any notes either.
So let me begin by this. My response is my response. As the director of the Michigan State Police, my role and mission is to be able to select a leadership team of members with varied experiences, with different strengths that can help me run the agency. As it relates to Lieutenant Colonel Brimacombe and any other member of the Michigan State Police, we have a process. When you violate a policy, it is investigated thoroughly in a fair and impartial manner by our PSS, our Professional Standards Section. That internal review is done. It is completed. It is sent over to Labor Relations. They roundtable it and they make a decision. That all happened regarding that incident prior to me sitting in this seat.
I understand that, and I did mention that. However, in the instance of Lieutenant Colonel Brimacombe, again, the question was, do you think elevating somebody that has that many sustained IAs is good for morale? And another note, the direct report that she reports to, right? What happened to him after she was promoted? He was a captain, and once he's the one that did this IA into the car, and then she filed a false disparaging report against him. That was unfounded. What rank does he currently hold? And he was a captain, now he's a lieutenant, but he's still getting captain pay. So now, again, it comes down to the taxpayers. Now, because of the decisions you've made by elevating Lieutenant Colonel Brimacombe, then all of a sudden, this person gets demoted. But he's getting paid at the same rate that he did prior to. And so do you think that when the troopers in the field see a high-ranking official like a captain being demoted because he told the truth, do you think that has an impact on morale with the troopers on the road?
Regarding that member, he was not demoted. He was offered an opportunity to remain at his same rank and pay with some different responsibilities. He actually verbally accepted the position. And the following week, he changed his mind and decided to go in another route with a different option that was provided. with him becoming a first lieutenant where he could have remained a captain. So that was the decision of that member.
Okay, just so members are clear, you have classified and unclassified positions. So this individual chose to remain in a classified position because within a classified position, you're not an at-will employee. So instead of keeping the rank so he could wear the collar brass and be called a captain, he could have done that in an unclassified position, but then he could be fired the next day. So he chose on his own to go into an unclassified position. Is that true?
First of all, no one told him he was going to be fired. I offered
His
him
contract would not be renewed. My misspoke, contract not renewed, not fired.
He was not fired. He was offered an opportunity. He made a decision on what he wanted to do moving forward for the remainder of his career.
Once again, what I'm asking is if an unclassified position is an at-will employee, yes or no?
Even as a NERI employee, the same thing can happen.
You could not renew a contract. As soon as it's up, you could not renew the contract. So the people that work underneath you that sign 2-year contracts, correct, are in fear of retaliation.
I need to be given respectfully my time to respond to your question.
Okay, I thought I did. I apologize, sir.
Okay, so he was provided the option to remain at the same rank and pay. He chose not to do that. He has some different roles and responsibilities. Again, I value all of our employees. So he made the decision on what he would do for the remainder of his time within the agency regarding his rank. As it pertains to Lieutenant Colonel Brimagome, again, we have a process in place that precedes me, that incident precedes me. My job is to put together the best executive leadership team to help me run the department.
Representative Pahutsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for being here, Colonel. This is going back a little ways, but there's been a lot of talk about the survey that went out to MSP membership, and you had answered a question saying that you weren't aware of any previous instance where, there was such a overwhelming response. But then you also named some questions that apparently appear regularly on these surveys that come out regularly. To your recollection or to your knowledge, when was the last time there was a survey that directly named 2 members of leadership and asked for a response about how staff, MSP troopers felt about them?
So I haven't had the opportunity to go back and look at every survey. I do have a survey in my booklet in my office that goes back to either 17 or 18, and there are command staff that are named in those surveys specifically. So that's why I alluded to, over the last 3 colonels, some of the same comment concerns were in those surveys.
And then this was touched on a little bit in a more recent question, but what are some of the reasons that someone may drop in rank at the conclusion of their contract? You touched on this a little bit. And why might someone who has less experience be better suited for one of these positions that's in question than a veteran?
As I indicated a moment ago, I'm not obligated to re-sign a contract after the 2 years has been completed. I make decisions in the best interest of the agency. And sometimes that may mean moving someone into a different position so that they have different roles and responsibility to help the agency continue to move forward. In this incident, with that captain, that's what I did. That's what I always do. I think very hard about making those decisions before they are made. As Rep. Brooks said earlier, this job is not about being comfortable. You have to make very challenging decisions day to day. So I'm making them. They're not always going to be favorable to everyone, right? So these are things that I take into consideration and what's best for the agency. Sometimes it bodes well for the member because it works out very well for them as well. As it pertains to the leadership, Again, I have to pick experienced people that have different strengths in areas that I may not have, so that I can assemble a complete team to best move the agency forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Wolford.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate it. Colonel Grady, thank you for being here today. Appreciate you. Couple of questions for you. When the survey came out showing over 90% disapproval in your leadership, when you gathered, how many troops do you have, troopers?
So we are sitting in this agency with over 1,800 sworn and enlisted members of the agency.
Okay.
A little over 1,100 troopers.
Okay. And so when that survey came out and you gathered all of them and spoke to them on this, what was their response to you?
So I haven't,
And that,
because I had already started my work site visits prior to that vote. And I'll just tell you, I don't know anything about the format of it. I don't know how it was tracked. None of that information has been shared with me. Again, that is not an MSP survey. That came from the MSPTA.
yes, sir. Well, regardless of where it came from, that's the sediment of it. And you spoke earlier about when the survey came out, you said you met with your command. And so I would respectfully say to you, sir, as someone who served in the Marine Corps, that may be the first thing you need to do, is to meet with these over 1,000 people that work for you and say, I understand that this is a survey that came out. Because if you don't do that, you're going to continue to have low morale. We know in military or sub-military police force, when people lose faith in their leader, the result is a cascade of issues, and we're seeing that. There's low morale, poor cohesion, and at the end of the day, a mission that's going to be compromised. So that's my respectful comment to you, sir, to meet with the people that work for you. My question for you is, when you were looking to fill the Chief Deputy Director position, would you agree that then First Lieutenant Amy Brimacombe was the most qualified member for that position, and what were those qualifications? Because my concern is, I'll just use the Marine Corps as an example. When you're a corporal and you're getting ready to be promoted to the next rank up, sergeant, they look at all of those corporals and say, who is the best of the best? What is their conduct? What are their proficiencies? What are all of those? And then they look at that and then they promote that person up one rank. You looked at, or may not have looked at, all of those things, and yet you promoted her up 4 ranks. Similar to an 8th grader playing junior football being promoted up to being the quarterback of the University of Michigan. Or, well, the list could go on and on. So my question, sir, is how did you come to the conclusion that she was the most qualified for that position, and what were her qualifications?
Everyone that's a part of this current executive leadership team, again, brings different strengths, different experiences to the table. That's how you assemble a team when you're the leader, when you are in this seat, right? And so, here in the state police, and my experience with leadership started way before this agency. And so,
I appreciate your former accolades, sir, but what I'm asking is what were the qualifications that you used to promote this person up 4 ranks? In the military, if that would have been done, it would have brought morale to an all-time low. An NCO being promoted up to be the sergeant major of leading people, right?
So in the MSP, you can promote multiple ranks. It's not one rank at a time. This happened multiple times throughout the history of this agency. People go from sergeants to first lieutenant, from first lieutenant to captain, and from captain on up. And so this is not uncommon in this agency. That is an unclassified position.
So that being.
Based on,
I'm
can I
sorry.
finish, sir?
Yep.
Based on civil service rules, I could select someone that I do feel is qualified, and she was, to fill that vacancy. 25 years in the agency, law degree, right, and many other accolades throughout her 27-year career.
Yes. And-
So she was one out of the several member executive leadership team that I have that had strengths, that had an experienced background to help me lead this organization.
So, sir, did it cross your mind at all that this might bring troop morale down? And then my second question is, did you know at the time that she had sustained internal complaints in her file that led to her being disciplined? I understand that she sustained internal investigations for misuse of an MSP vehicle, insubordination, lying during an internal investigation, and filing a false complaint against a superior officer, yet you wanted to promote her up 4 ranks. And while that is allowed, per your statement, I don't think it's the best decision. But go ahead, sir.
As the leader, and me being in this seat, I have to make those decisions. What I will also share with you is, as it pertains to discipline, it's not supposed to be for punitive reasons. It's supposed to be for corrective action. It doesn't matter if you are the colonel, the lieutenant colonel, the trooper on the road, the sergeant, or any other middle management positions. Everyone, when they are facing a policy violation, deserves a fair and impartial investigation. If they receive discipline, they should be able to serve that discipline and move on through their career.
So just in closing, you see no potential mistakes as the leader, because you keep
I do
saying
not.
that you're the leader, in promoting somebody up 4 ranks who'd been in trouble, and you don't think that that would cause any morale issues?
As I just indicated before, there have been many people in the agency that have served discipline and and they were able to move on with their careers.
And therein lies the problem.
And so, well, again, it's not supposed to be for punitive reasons, sir. It's supposed to be for corrective action. So do we hold the rain cloud over someone's head forever for the remainder of their career? So as the director, these are my decisions to make. I want to put the people in the right place to help me run the agency effectively and efficiently, and making sure that we keep the state of Michigan safe.
And I do agree that people shouldn't hold things over people's heads for a very long time. I read once in a book that grace is sufficient and all of those things. But, sir, this wasn't forever. This was 5 to 10 days after being written up, you promoted her. So I'll just leave you with this, that I would ask you, please, to meet with the people who took this survey, your people. You didn't even know who it is that works for you in Representative Bruck's area. So I just say this respectfully. Meet with your people. Over a 90% disapproval rating. Meet with them. I've seen the reports. What can I do to be an effective leader for you?
Rep. Wolford, can I ask you a question?
Thank you for being here today, sir. I appreciate
Can I ask you a question? Anybody that's responsible for over 3,200 people, you're not going to remember everyone's name. There's no way to be able to do that.
Would you remember your commanders over your post in the state?
That's different. I had relationships and saw these people every day. I don't see all 3,200 members of this organization every day. There's no way that someone would be able to do that.
Sir, the commander from Brighton, what was his response?
I would, Representative, with all due respect, we're running out of time and we have to wrap things up. We have one more.
Thank you, Colonel Grady. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Representative Mueller.
One last thing, and this is more, it has nothing to do with police work, but it has to do with, again, taxpayer money. We learned that there was a $800,000 legislative transfer for the unclassified positions. I'm sure you're aware because I let everybody know about that. And the other is you have a command conference or usually in Grand Rapids, however, you're from the Metro Detroit area. I don't blame you for doing that. As a person, it's by your home, However, when it costs over $40,000 over the acceptable rate for the per diem, and it was not approved by the civil service or whoever approves it, do you think that's a good use of taxpayers' money by overspending nearly $40,000? And the other thing is with the legislative transfers, I know that's within your capability. However, but it seemed like it got taken out of areas like post operations and some of the field to go into unclassified positions because you had 3 or prior, now there's like 7. And have those been filled? Why take the money from the boots on the ground troopers and transfer that $800,000 into the executive leadership team? That's the first question. The second question is, do you think it's a good use of taxpayers' dollars to go over by $40,000 on a command conference?
In reference to the $40,000, I've already addressed this with my team to ensure that we are working towards meeting our budget in this area. And to correct this, we are reducing travel to address this line item in the budget and put some things in place to ensure that this does not happen again. In reference to the $800,000, that $800,000 has been moved to cover legal expenses concerning departmental members where we have to pay out in legal agreements. It meets the rules of the state of Michigan. Those positions were set up because I had some ideas of some different roles and responsibilities I wanted to fill in this agency. But due to the questionable budget concerns on what may be cut, I decided not to fill them. And so that's where the money was transferred back to for those reasons. And again, we're moving on as an agency and not looking back.
Thank you, Colonel. And when you say lawsuits, where, because we know in the Flint scandal there was about roughly $436,000 that had to be paid out to troopers. So was that the money that was transferred over? And I mean, if it is, it is. I mean, that's part of what happens when that happens is the legislature has to do it. But we just want to make sure that it, because we did see the $40,000, it seemed like a little bit excessive. We just want to, and I appreciate you saying that you're taking the steps to make sure that doesn't occur again. But as you can see, as a legislator, it kind of, sends up a red flag when I see that. And as long as you're accountable for it and then you take corrective actions to fix that, I don't have any problem with that. And thank you again, Colonel.
Thank you. No, we are taking the corrective action to ensure that it doesn't happen again. And going back to moving the leadership conferences around, that was done by my predecessors. It gives us the opportunity to interact and engage with the local businesses throughout the state.
We have one final question. I would ask that it be right to the point, please. We are over time. Representative Paquette.
Thank you. Thank you, Colonel. With the vote of no confidence, I like metrics. I appreciate your willingness to improve. The votes of yes, confidence were 18. The no were 1,167. So with metrics in mind and your willingness to improve, what is an acceptable vote of yes in your mind? What number does that need to get to?
Well, I'm more interested in our surveys, our employee survey, engagement surveys that we provide. Again, that vote of no confidence or the vote to the membership that wasn't being organized by the MSP. We have ways to track that information. I don't know the format. I don't know the tracking mechanisms or anything that they utilize for that. Only the leadership of those two associations know that, not me.
Would you be willing to do your own vote among your members yourself?
We get the information from the employee engagement survey and the ICE surveys.
So it's not something with metrics in mind and your willingness to improve, gathering that metric as if your team under you has confidence in you is not something that you're interested in doing?
Well, we look at the metric of morale and other things based on the topics that are covered in the surveys, and we look at the results, and then we come up with an action plan for improvement in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Colonel Grady, thank you for coming in, speaking with us. I appreciate you giving us a few extra minutes beyond 10:30 to answer some questions. I would appreciate it, and perhaps you'd entertain and get back to me if you might come back in 4 to 6 months and talk to us about what you maybe have implemented to improve the morale within the Michigan State Police Agency and how that success may be occurring. So let us know on that. Appreciate you taking the time. Thank you very much for being here today.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Seeing no absent members, nothing further before the committee, the subcommittee on Michigan State Police Appropriations stands adjourned.
There being no further business before the Oversight Committee and seeing no absent members, the Oversight Committee stands adjourned.